Grüß Gott.
Guten Tag. Ist das die Wagner Museum?
Ja, you're an American, aren't you? I'm afraid the house is closed this time of year. It will be open next month.
Crap.
You are interested in Wagner?
Very interested. Very recently very interested.
Yeah. Most of the house is closed for cleaning, but a few rooms are open. I shouldn't let you probably, but if it is only you, you are alone, aren't you?
Endlessly.
Come in and look over.
That's very generous. What do I owe you?
Georg Emmerding. It's only a few displays. Besides, I wouldn't be much of a shining knight if I charged you.
Thanks, Georg. My name is Grace.
Hello. Have a good time.
Franz Liszt, composer and Cosima Wagner's father. Richard Wagner. An old sofa. The death of Wagner. On Ash Wednesday, 1883, Wagner suffered a heart attack in a Venetian gondola on the way to San Michele. His wife and the gondolier carried him into a church where he regained consciousness. Wagner died 4 days later on this sofa. Wagner's death mask. The great patron himself. Ludwig as the classical Greek hero. June 10th, 1881, Munich residence. Great friend, I am writing to you in the middle of the night. My blood is pounding too wildly for sleep. Tonight's performance, how can I describe it? I am unsure whether to be terrified or thrilled. Perhaps I even feel hopeful? If it is hope, you have given it to me, my friend, for the first time in years. We must speak. Something happened during the music tonight, but I must have your absolute confidence. As you love me, come at once. Your devoted king, Ludwig. July 1882. Great and beloved king, Monsieur Beaujolais and I have finished the diagram. We checked the figures many times and Monsieur is confident that it will work. 8 identical fixtures are to be made from the diagram and placed in the theater exactly as specified. I'm sending the diagram with your courier. Be full of hope and have courage. All will be well. Your own, Wagner. These look like production designs. These look like production designs. These look like production. This must be a model of Wagner's own theater here in Bayreuth. This must be opera costumes. Opera costume. It's a letter from a Monsieur Beaujolais, dated September 1881. Looks like he's discussing acoustics and sound waves, and crystals. Wasn't Wagner's Bayreuth theater already built? Why would Wagner be worrying about acoustics? Wagner's desk. Exactly at It looks rather simple considering the grandiose stuff Wagner composed here. Wagner souvenirs. Don't think I need any of those.
What are you doing here if the museum is closed?
They always like to have a caretaker here. It's a good job for me. I can soak in the atmosphere of the maestro while I compose.
What are you composing?
This? Oh, a new arrangement. One of Wagner's pieces.
For the Bayreuth Opera?
No. I am only a student at the university. I study music, composition, conducting.
Is there much of a call for conductors in Europe?
Ask my brother. He is the conductor for the Munich Opera.
Well, that's convenient. Does that mean you get free opera tickets?
Yes. I get a week's pass to the Opernfestspiele, the opera festival in Munich. It starts in a few months.
Hope I'm still around to see it.
Come with me if you like. If you're still around, I can go backstage and all sorts of things.
I'd love that. If I'm still in Germany, I'll call you, all right?
Yeah, good.
Tell me about Wagner.
He was a character. He spent most of his life trying to convince rich patrons to subsidize his work. Unfortunately, he had expensive tastes. You see, he believed that someone of his genius deserved to live well. Can't argue with that.
But Ludwig II supported him, didn't he?
Yeah, sure, but Ludwig came along very late in Wagner's life. By then, he had already been run out of Venice and most major cities because of debt. Ludwig saved him. And the music. Best thing Ludwig ever did.
Do you know anything about that letter from Wagner to Ludwig in the display case? The one about the diagram?
Ah, no. Some sort of equipment for Ludwig's theater. But I don't know why Wagner would have cared about this. If he was worried about any theater, you would think it would have been his own theater, here, in Bayreuth.
Have you ever heard about the letter that Ludwig wrote to the Munich conductor in 1882 telling him to prepare for a new Wagner opera?
You're full of surprises, for an American.
What do you know about it?
No one knows anything about it. It's like a treasure map, you know? It's probably a complete fairy tale, but it does make you wonder.
You have no idea what it could have referred to? Maybe something that Wagner was working on with Ludwig?
If there was, there's no trace of it. Except perhaps in the dreams of unemployed music students.
Professor Barclay's Ludwig contact. I don't have anything to ask Georg about at the moment. Grace now. This must be a model of Wagner's own theater, here in Bayreuth. This must... It looks like an architectural drawing of a theater. The Wittelsbacher Theater, München. Every square inch is measured. It looks like every square... Wasn't Wagner's Bayreuth Theater already built? I don't have anything to ask it. I don't have anything to say to her at the moment.
What's that book in the case?
Cosima Wagner's journal. It's locked up for preservation.
I don't have anything. Wagner souvenir. Wagner souvenir. Wagner's death mask. Wagner died on that. The death of Wagner. These look like production designs. A ticket to the Ludwig Museum. I don't have anything to add. I don't think the guards want to be bothered while on duty.
Our tour begins in the entry hall. Ludwig II lived from 1845 to 1886. He assumed the Bavarian throne at the age of 18 when his father died. Ludwig's passion was building castles. He built 3 during his lifetime: Linderhof, Herrenchiemsee, and Neuschwanstein. In addition to his obsession with building, Ludwig also had a passion for classical heroic German mythology, a taste he shared with the German opera composer Richard Wagner. Neuschwanstein is decorated throughout with themes from these stories, most of which directly relate to Wagner's operas.
These scenes seem to tell a story, but I have no idea what story. I wonder where that door leads.
The closed door leads to the tower, which is not part of the tour. The king was making his way to this very door when he was arrested in 1886. The paintings in this room are from the Siegfried saga. You are now standing in the king's bedroom. The theme of the bedroom is Tristan and Isolde. the tragic love story retold in Wagner's opera. The opera was given its first performance in Munich in 1865, and a 20-year-old Ludwig attended. This is probably the most elaborate and expensive bedroom ever created. It took 14 woodcarvers 4.5 years to create this room. It was this kind of extravagance that bankrupted the king. In the years before his death, he found it increasingly difficult to find money from any source. The richly carved bed, with its canopy, resembles a Gothic building and its turrets. The bed's draperies were handmade by dozens of Bavarian seamstresses. The washstand actually worked by bringing in water from a stream above the castle. The richly carved bed, with its canopy, resembles
Ludwig sure had a thing for swans.
In the corner is a brown tiled stove with clay figures of Tristan and Isolde. Scenes from the opera Tristan and Isolde. Scenes from the opera Tristan and Isolde. This is Ludwig's private chapel. The king was a devout Catholic, as were all of the Wittelsbacher rulers. They supported the Roman Church even when other European countries were dominated by Protestantism. The stained glass window depicts Saint Louis receiving the last sacraments.
The Black Madonna of Altadine. I wonder what her story is all about. It's a beautiful crucifix, ivory and gold. A king saint? I wonder if Ludwig pictured himself that way, or...
The paintings above the altar depict Saint Louis surrounded by the seraphim. An interesting side note. For a period of about a year, the Louis images in all three castles were ordered to be covered up with black cloth on the unfathomable whim of the king.
A king's...
This is the king's living room. The walls are decorated with scenes from the Lohengrin saga. The king first saw Wagner's opera Lohengrin when he was 16, and it so affected him that he considered it a form of enlightenment. The tragedy of Lohengrin was his essential loneliness. This too was Ludwig's own fate. Ludwig withdrew more and more into his fantasy world of epic heroes and absolute monarchy. An ideal he was determined to create in his castles if he could not have it in his real life. He only wanted to be alone with his dreams, so much so that even his servants were kept at a distance and were not allowed to look at him.
What were you afraid they'd see? I'm surprised people don't sit in these chairs when the guard's not looking. These linens look seriously expensive and seriously old.
The miracle of the Grail. The miracle of the Grail. The swan motif is featured throughout the castle, but it is particularly prominent in this room. Both the swan and the lily were symbols Ludwig associated with himself. They represented his ideals of majesty and purity. The painting behind the swan shows Lohengrin's arrival.
More swans.
This is a reproduction of the grotto from the Tannhäuser saga. In such places, Ludwig could pretend he was one of his beloved mythic heroes. As the grotto personifies, the castles were solitary playgrounds built for Ludwig alone. He believed the masses were too coarse to appreciate fine art, and he seldom entertained guests. In fact, Ludwig had a standing order that upon his death, the castles were to be destroyed. Fortunately, the estate was in such debt that the castles were opened for paying tours only weeks after Ludwig's death. They haven't closed since. It is one of the great ironies of Ludwig's story that the castles that he was thought insane for building are now considered Bavaria's finest treasures. They have paid for their construction many times over.
I can almost picture Ludwig in here. I wonder what he really dreamt about in this room. I can almost picture Ludwig in here. I wonder what he really dreamt about in this.
This is the king's study. Ludwig spent much time at his desk, writing letters, drawing up plans for his projects, and studying his favorite authors. He loved poetry, history, and the classics. In later years, he also studied the occult. What affairs of state he did reluctantly attend to, were generally attended to alone at his desk and writing. His reluctance to meet with his heads of state and perform the duties of the king were one of the reasons for the charges brought against him in 1886. But Ludwig dreamt of true kingship and a true monarchy, and the small powers left to him after Bavaria succeeded power to Prussia only incited his disdain and frustration. The study paintings depict scenes from the Tannhäuser saga and the Wartburg Castle. The study paintings depict scenes from the Tannhäuser saga and the Wartburg Castle. The study paintings depict scenes.
I wonder why he was studying the occult before he died. I wonder why he was studying the occult before he died. I doubt there's anything left in there now. Besides, the guard would kill me if I touched it.
The hunters tracked down Engelhard and Hildegunde. Engelhard courts Hildegunde. Engelhard and the blacksmith.
There must be a story behind these wolf paintings. But what story? There must be. Nice view of the Alps.
Ludwig's childhood castle, Hohenschwangau, is visible from the lookout in the Singers' Hall. The wedding feast of Hildegunde and the Baron. The death of Engelhart.
Hi, Gerda. I'm back. Good.
Hallo?
Hallo, sind Sie Herr Josef Dahlmeier?
Yeah, you must be Grace Nakimura, the American history student.
Yes,
I hear you're interested in Ludwig II.
very.
Good. There's something I want to show you. Drive to Berg on Starnberger See. Meet me at the Memorial Chapel.
All right, thank you.
Oh, wait. Was there anything you wanted me to look into before we meet?
Well, I was hoping you knew something about someone called the Black Wolf. He was a contemporary of Ludwig's. He lived in Prussia, I think, and he was well connected.
Never heard of him, but I'll check. See you there.
Thanks. Bye.